The game is over. Yet again, your Tigers fall on the road again, this time to the Missouri Tigers by the score of 21-17. We're talking about yet another loss. So that means our reaction show moves into a therapy session for you all. Let's get into it. We'll talk about everything, all your thoughts, your opinions, and of course, the stats. Let's get into all those different things right now. War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. Thank you so much for joining us, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching on the replay. We appreciate you hanging out with us, spending some time being a part of our little family within the Auburn family, where we cover the Auburn experience, whether it's good or bad. We cover it. The Auburn experience is all about Auburn sports, Auburn culture, and Auburn family stuff. Easier way to say it is if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. What we're doing today is a reaction stream. Auburn falls to Missouri 21-17 in their comeback win on their homecoming game. It's a good year to make Auburn your homecoming game, apparently. So certainly we can talk about a lot of different things here in a lot of different ways. We'll get into all those different things. We'd love for you to start the stream off, though, by smashing the like button. Not for your team. I understand that. I understand you're not happy with that, but do it for us. It's a huge help. Let us know that you're here by, checking in with us. Let us know that you're perfect, that your particular location, if you'd like to do that still for us. It's always a good way to announce yourself into the chat. Lets people know also how vast and wide our Auburn family is. All right, so let's get into it here. Let me go ahead and do a little bit of housekeeping at the start of all of this. And let me go ahead and address this right here. This should be very clear to everybody who is an adult, which is the vast majority of us here. You are free to share your opinions here as long as they are not taking personal shots at players and coaches. If you are not able to do so, we will show you the door. So if you can't manage that, unfortunately, this would be a great time for you to consider not participating in the live chat or posting something in the comments after the fact. That should be the only thing that I have to say about it going forward. If I don't, it is what it is. You guys make the choice at this point. Now that that's handled, let's get into this thing. What a terrible, 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 terrible. Did I say terrible? Terrible loss. Auburn had this game in their hand once again, had an opportunity to put this away and was not able to do that. And a lot of blame can be pointed in a lot of different ways. And it's not just one player. It's not just even the coach. Several missed opportunities across the board here that we can dive into and talk about a little bit further. I know there are frustrations on special teams. I know there are frustrations on offense. Probably the least amount of frustrations would be the defense, except for the end of the game there. But you can understand the job they did keeping Burden in check for a lot of the game. That's a great, a tall task that they had the entire time. So there's a lot of different places here to be frustrated and to talk about what could have been another win for Auburn to really make their hopes for any type of postseason play more of a reality. That's the frustrating nature. So it's one thing I think, and I think a lot of you would agree with me on this statement. If this is a game where we're just getting torched and we're just we're a horrible team, is not even in position to win the game, that type of horrible team. It's not that it makes it easier, but you almost kind of like, well, we're just not a good team. This is a team that is literally on the cusp of being so much better than their record is, and they just can't finish the job. When somebody makes a great pass, we drop it in the end zone. When somebody makes a bad pass, then it's at the worst opportune time. We make a terrible play call at this particular position. Everybody else is doing their job at that point. I mean, the defense, it's just really frustrating. I'm frustrated. You're all frustrated. We're all frustrated together. This is the Auburn experience at this point. So opening thought there. Let's go ahead and dive into some of these things and see if anybody has some things to say here. It only hurts bad because we are so close to winning. I think the team is improving. I will step out a little bit from UWT, and I would not call this an improvement. I would say that they are playing better than they did at some of the worst parts in the start of the season. However, I would not say that this was an improvement. I am going to be more on I'm a guy that loves to be optimistic and look at the right side of things. I do not look at this performance in this game overall right now in the portion of this reaction show that I'm in currently. Obviously, opinions and time and emotions suddenly can change. I don't consider that an improvement. Maybe some of you can convince me otherwise, but that's just how I feel about it at this current time. Corey says, Kyle, do you feel as if the defense just says the heck with it after seeing the offense struggle to get anything done? No, I don't think so, Corey. I really don't think so. I think it's no more simpler than they were just gassed and they did all they could to hold off. Luther Burden, some of their other wide receivers, their running back. I need to see Carroll. Well, he didn't even have that great of a game, to be honest with you. Speaking of which, we need to talk about that for us. All those different things there. But I don't think there was any give up on them. I think they were just gassed at the end of that. We're going to put you in, again, folks, if you're making any commentary, I shouldn't have to continue to say this commentary that you wouldn't say to Peyton Thorne's face, to the coach's face, you're going to be let go from this stream. So your choice from this point forward. Jonathan says no improvements after the bye week. No one wants to be a dog on the team. They look lackluster and that they don't care. Highly disagree with you there, Jonathan. I think that's a very emotional response. But I will say I will agree with you on the improvements part of that. We just talked about it when WT felt that the team was improving. I would say this was just a status quo. I mean, I saw a team that could have put this game away and then was unable to do so, especially at the end of the game. Now, what we can talk about, what we have improved on, even with just one fumble? I mean, I know there were 2 fumbles. Oh, actually, the one was called back. Just 1 turnover on the game. That is improving. What it didn't improve in this game, which was one of our 2 big things, turnovers and the 3rd and Auburn. Thank you. That I feel like got a lot worse this game. Let's look at it and see. 3rd downs, 7 of 17 for Missouri. The fact that they had 17 opportunities, geez. So that is, doing quick math in my head, just it's under 50%, but still they got them in some very opportune times. Let's see here. Neil says there were some big mistakes by the receivers. One of the end zone in the 3rd quarter was bad. That was probably, Neil, the most angry that I have been in the moment of watching the game all season, because no one's going to sit here and be reasonable and say that Peyton has had a great year by the completion of looking at the whole product thus far. He's had some great moments. He's also had some very bad moments. But when the kid does everything right, which he actually does do more often than people want to give him credit for, he gets let down by his teammates. And it's not just one player. We're talking about this one specific one. I mean, he cannot place that ball in that positioning on the field any better. And we've seen it before. Hit people in the chest because they can't close their hands, just going right through your hands. There is nothing he can do any more right. And so when you get in these situations, you can understand where he makes further mistakes because his confidence is just shot. Josh talks about 28% 3rd down conversions is not going to win many games. 4 for 14. Yeah, that's really, 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 really bad. Marianne says, I want to be optimistic, but after watching this game, my head hurts. Give it some time and it'll feel somewhat better, but not a lot. We're gonna, unfortunately, somebody is not getting the hint that their comments are not being allowed here, and so unfortunately you got yourself kicked from the stream. So not catching the hint there. Let's see here. Neil says AU ran the ball well and should have continued to pound the ball. I'm not going to disagree with you heavily here, Neil. 19 attempts for 57 yards is not running the ball well. Now, that's just one player. That's Jarquez. Let's look at the whole picture, though. Rushing yards, 110 in the game. I do not think we were running the ball well at all. A lot of what we heard all this last 2 weeks is it's just this simple, run the ball. And I kept telling you people time and time again, it ain't that simple. You saw what happens. We put more of a concentration in handing the ball off to Jarquez. Now, what I will say, what I liked is the variability of what we did in the run game. Utilized Malcolm Simmons a lot and gave him a chance to be dynamic in the run and the passing game. Just give your playmakers a chance to make an opportunity, right? But that wasn't the answer. Everyone screamed for 2 weeks. It's simple. Hand it off to Jarquez Hunter. He's a great athlete. We saw him jump a guy again today. And I mean, I don't know why we're all amazed. The kid is just an athlete, but he can't do it all. He has to have a hole to run through. And if you can't provide that as an offensive line, I'm not talking about individuals, I'm talking about the unit, then it doesn't matter. So I do not think it was a good run game at all. I understand maybe what feels a little bit better because the passing game, obviously, outside of one touchdown and maybe a couple of good throws by Peyton Thorne, there's not a lot to be excited about. But it was not, in my opinion, obviously we can differ on that. It is not a good run game whatsoever. All right, let me skip ahead a little bit and see what we got going on here. Where's Tyler? It didn't have to be this. Tyler, if you're sitting next to Ryan right now, I want you to ask him about that bet he made me at the beginning of the season. See how he's feeling about that right now. Kenneth talks about we find ways to lose. That is certainly true today. Not necessary whatsoever. um, let's see here. Why does Jeremiah Cobb not get more playing time? Because then you have to take time away from Jarquez Hunter, and thus people would then be screaming again like they did for the last 2 weeks, just give the ball to Jarquez. So I know we're all asking these questions, and Tyler is a good friend. So some I don't know if he's being serious here or not. It's always hard to tell with him. But Jeremiah Cobb tonight, he gets two attempts running for 16 yards. So two graded. One was, where's his long? He had a long of 10. So both were pretty decent runs. I think he was utilized in the passing game one time for 15 yards. So there's a point to be said here. We did it with Malcolm Simmons. We wanted just to get the ball in his hands. We did that this game as well. Maybe you can make that case a little bit for Jeremiah Cobb too, but that means other people lose their opportunities, especially in the run game right there. Let's see here. All right. Well, this is borderline stuff we don't allow here, Lane, but I'm just gonna use yours as a jumping board. Good throw, and how many short arms did he pitch? Answer that. Well, actually, he did have quite a few bad throws today, and I talked about that a lot with the people I was watching the game with today. This was not an outstanding performance by him, but if you think he's not the guy, then you're gonna have to explain why everybody continues to sit on the bench. The coaches know more than you, big guy. You might want to learn that. So if they throw somebody else out there, then they're gonna have my full support. But they know more than you, and they know more than me. So he is the guy, whether you want him to be that or not. Peyton Thorne was one of our issues at times tonight. He was not He was. I would venture to say by far not the biggest issue today. Ann says something's wrong with the whole culture at Auburn, and I don't know enough to know what it is. Well, let me kind of, we're getting into more like nuanced things in a therapy reaction stream here, but let me talk about this a little bit here. First of all, this is a little hyperbolic, and this is a little more emotional, and you're allowed some emotions after a frustrating loss like this. This goes back to, and we said it earlier, choices that we made a long time ago, 4 years ago, that brought us to this point. And some are starting to realize it. Some are starting to finally see that I wasn't an idiot when I told you it didn't have to be this way. But this is what is brought, what we've been brought to. And we thought we hit rock bottom, but it feels like we probably still got a little bit ways to go at this point. Okay, Neil wanted to clarify. AU ran the ball well in the third quarter on that one drive. Shouldn't have abandoned the run, came away with 0 points on that drive. And that may be fair. I'd have to go look at that one drive. And if we're talking about the one where the ball was thrown perfectly into the receiver's hands and he chose to do this, it really wouldn't have mattered at that point anyway. And then he took up sack and all that kind of stuff. WT wants to talk about the wonderful special teams. Well, that's certainly a point of contention. It also is a point that is very broad. Special teams got us a touchdown today. Special teams had an incredible punt, two really, that put Missouri in a very tough situation. Credit to them. Oh, and I have been meaning to do this better and better. So for Missouri fans, if you're still here, I don't know if you are, congrats on winning the game. You guys came back and, I mean, literally just took it from us. There's nothing more to be said under that. I hope that comes across. I need to do better about making sure that's the first thing I say after these games. I don't want that ever to be a shot. Or not. I don't know which word I'm trying to say. Anyway, special teams, mixed bag, missed field goal. Pretty easy 1-2. I knew the second he trotted out there, he was going to miss it, not because it was a shot at the kid or anything. It's just I'm a former kicker, and I kind of put myself in their headspace a little bit, and I'm feeling for Towns Magoo right now. He's been put in a very tough situation, and he's struggled. He has definitely struggled. There's no two ways to talk about that. Josh brings up no deep shots. So here's the interesting thing. Yes, we did have a deep shot a couple times, and one of them was successful. But this is what people were calling for. Not maybe you or anybody else. People were calling for run the ball more. Just give it to Jarquez. We did that. How well did it work? Not well at all. So it's just not that simple. Everybody thinks that it's just one simple thing. A portal quarterback doesn't fix this either. I see some of that commentary kicking up now too. A portal quarterback doesn't fix it. This is a holistic problem that Auburn is trying to fix on all of these things. Yellowwood's the reason. That's no, my goodness. Let's see here. Let me scroll ahead and see what we've got going on here. Circa Realist says coaching was the biggest issue today. I definitely have an issue with some of the coaching decisions, but again, I don't have all the information, nor do you. The results simply lead to that conclusion, but I would not say that they were the biggest issue today. It's more than just one simple issue out of all this. On a side note, weather is awesome today. Stan says that Missouri didn't win, Auburn lost. I'll disagree with you. Certainly, we made it much easier for them to come back in, but the fact of the matter is they had every excuse to drop this game, and they came back and took control of it. So it's they deserve some credit right there. Tyler's over here trying to act crazy. Ethan says it's hard for freshmen to just go out there in that pressure and just nail every field goal. It is difficult. However, you were selected for a reason. I am obviously going to be a little bit biased and more sympathetic towards kickers as a former kicker, but I also can't shy away from the fact that on some simple ones, he's having a hard time too. And simple as in the distance, that angle is a tough angle from that close, even as a right-footed kicker. My opinion, and I know this probably differs for some people, is always as a right-footed kicker, the right hash was always the most difficult one for me. Well, you'd say, well, isn't there a natural drift anyway that way? Yeah, but there's some correctional stuff that you're thinking in your head. And for me, maybe that's why I didn't make it to the college level, but it's just not good. Just not good. Let's see here. Where am I at? Trying to figure out where I left off in chat here. I think we've covered most of y'all's commentary already in some form of discussion here. Josh, I would encourage you to, first of all, not buy into this hyperbole or begin to be part of the crowd to start to call for this. You will learn that we can fall further. This is not the time. This is not the time for this type of commentary. This is not the time for this type of narrative. This is not the time to even be feeding into that. Outside of extenuating circumstances, meaning mainly off the field stuff, this is a time for Auburn to maintain continuity. If you cannot maintain continuity, which Auburn has lacked during all 4 of these seasons, whether at the head coach position or otherwise, you will fall further. I know it doesn't feel like you can now, but let's stop with the hyperbole and realize where we are at. All right. Let me bring up some stats. We've talked about a few of them already. Peyton Thorne today, 17 for 29, 176 yards, 1 touchdown, 59% completed. His rating is 121. We talked about Jarquez, 19 carries for 57 yards. Peyton Thorne, 11 for 18 on rushing. We talked about Cobb. Simmons, 1 for 15. DeMar Alliston got 2 for 4. You get the ball to, let's see, 7 receivers today. Let's see how many of them are actually receivers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 of them receivers, 2 running backs, and a tight end. Actually, that math doesn't check out. So there'll be 4 wide receivers, unless their math is wrong on this sheet. Anyway, you got it to a good number of people. Your leading receiver on the day in receptions is Robert Lewis, and could have looked a lot better if he makes that touchdown grab. Cam Coleman obviously has that bomb, that 1 catch for 47 yards, which would have been, which was definitely the highest point out of all of this here. Remember, we are number 1 in the nation with freshman plays, and while it's a cool stat to talk about, we also shouldn't use that to kind of make excuses. And I know you're not WT, but I'm a lot of times when I say what seems contrary to somebody's statement, I'm also trying to talk about both sides of it. So that, because the second somebody makes a statement, you got somebody else screaming in typing, it can't be, that's an excuse. It's not an excuse, but it also is a factor in all of these things, that you've got a lot of people that don't know how to overcome some of this adversity yet at this particular level. That is part of it. Corey wants to have a comparison here. Took Drinkwitz 4 years to get Mizzou back in shape. This is his 5th. Yes, we're going to lose, but it takes more than a day to build a house. It's a fair perspective to have. Obviously, not everything is equal in comparing both of this thing, but it is a fair analogy that things take time sometimes, and everything's not an instant fix. Think about what's happened in the last 2 successful Auburn head coaching stints. Malzahn comes in and immediately has success. Chizik has a fair amount of success in year 1, and then wins the national championship in year 2. So a little bit of that's what we're used to, and so it's frustrating when you don't see that happening there. But Lewis did have the nice bobble recovery, but he nearly dropped it right after whiffing on the touchdown catch. So I was, and this is where it's always important to remember in the emotions of the situation. It's fine to be emotional in the moment, but you got to take a step back and go, I'm being overly emotional. I mean, I was livid, even though he made the catch. The fact that he even had the audacity to bobble that after whiffing on the touchdown catch. I was mad at Lewis. Again, it's not all on him. It's just in the moment. You want us to play white? He gets 4 games and red shirt, so why not? Well, we're not at 4 games yet, so maybe that holds a little bit more water. I'm gonna. Again, I want to talk some more about stuff in the game, not necessarily future stuff, but that narrative is not a very well thought out one, the whole why not thing. And I'm not taking a shot at you, Stan. I'm just talking about the narrative. So don't twist it. That's just not a very well thought out one. It's basically saying, oh, well, on the season, especially if they're not in a position to be highly successful in this particular part of the seasons. People will say, well, how do we know? Well, the coaches know more than us. And I know that's a very hard thing for some of us to accept, me included, but that's the reality of the situation. Yep, we're going to let you go, Mr. Samuel. Again, things that you will not say to people's faces are not, will not be allowed in here. It's just called being a good human being. All right, let's look at total team stats here. 286 yards on the game today. Not a good one. 176 passing yards. We already talked about the 110 rushing yards. Once again, folks, when people like me tell you that it's not as simple as just run the ball, I hope that you'll listen next time. It's not me trying to tell you I told you so. I just tried to tell you it's not that simple. I really, really, really hope this is a good lesson for a lot of people that pushed this narrative all this last week. Now, the great thing about this is against one team. So certainly you can go up against Kentucky next week. I think they've got a pretty even better defense from what I'm talking about. So that probably will be even less successful if we kind of go with what the trend is here. Penalties. Someone brought that up earlier. I don't know who it was. Maybe it was Neil. 6 penalties for 63 yards. It's not the most that Auburn's ever had, but certainly some very costly ones, timely ones, and they only have 2 for 24. So they win that battle outright. They got their only 4th down. They had 75 plays to our 64. Time of possession was in our favor, something that we had been losing the last couple of years. We had been losing earlier in the season. So that was in our favor. Sacks. Wait a minute. Hold on. Where are we at in sacks? 5 sacks for 28 yards. That right there is bad. So when we talk about one of the things that is very frustrating about this game and doesn't get talked about enough because it's so easy to pick on the quarterback. It's so easy for me to get mad at the wide receivers in the moments that they drop the ball. Is the offensive line did not play well in this game. They did not create a rushing attack, in my opinion, based on these stats, that was formidable enough to respect the passing game even further. They did not protect the quarterback. It's really about as that. I mean, I think the only thing in their favor is probably the fact that we won the time of possession. That's about the only thing right there. That I think is in the favor of the offensive line. Turnovers today, there too are 1. So even we won the turnover battle, and it's not good. Defense. We didn't talk about defense, and we can take some final commentary from you. Your leading tackle today, Dorian Mahusi. And then Eugene Asante, who had a great game too. He had 8 tackles. 7 of those were soloed, 2 tackles for loss, and 2 sacks. I don't know if I said that. So 2 tackles for loss. So those are probably your leading guys right there. Jaron Thompson, Jalen McLeod, Sylvester Smith. I keep wanting to say Steve. So Jay Crawford. Jay Crawford, by the way, boy, he almost had a highlight interception. How about that kid? That was incredible. An incredible thing that didn't come to fruition, but he's an athlete. He's an athlete now. Which reminds me, and someone acknowledged in the chat earlier, Rivaldo Fairweather. I don't know what's hurting him, but my goodness, I haven't seen a player hurt that bad on the ground in quite some time. Like, I really, 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 and I mean really, like, hurt for him. I could feel it in my bones that he was in that much pain. So I don't know if it was when got knocked out, because he gets up on his own 2 feet after some, being checked on. I don't know what the issue was, but he was in some pain. So I'm glad it looks like he's okay. I hate to go this route, but you start to think about when he got, I think, hit in the chest, because I thought maybe it was his shoulder got like maybe rocked out of place or something like that, and maybe that's all it was. But you start thinking about Hamlin in the NFL, people getting hit in the chest, and that crossed my mind there. So I'm glad as of right now he appears to be okay. But man, he got rocked, and I do mean rocked. It was a clean hit. It's just one of those plays that you are taught to do as a football player, and it happens that way sometimes. All right, so that's stats. We've talked about some reactions. If you've got any final productive commentary that you want to talk about in this particular game, let's round out our reaction stream here. Let me give you a couple reminders of what we got coming up next for you here at E2C Network. Of course, always wanted to start this off by reminding you to check out our friends at Alumni Hall. If you go to our link in our description link over there and go shop there, it'll help support us as affiliates of theirs. But we remind you, tomorrow night, the Auburn Experience, episode 98. Join us. It's going to be a good show. Austin and I will be back in the saddle 9 p.m. Eastern time here in his studio. We'll have a lot to talk about. Tip off at Tumors. We'll definitely break this game down a little bit more, and plenty of other cool stories that are out there this week in the Auburn Experience. So do not miss that. And of course, we'll have a Wednesday night show as well. I just don't have the cue card ready for you today. Let's see here. Hey, we scored more points than last week. Is that true? Wait, that's I just now got it. Sorry. I was thinking last game and not last week. I read it. It didn't click in my mind. Yes, we certainly did that. We certainly did that. But it's not all that great. Ellis with a very funny bit. Auburn only needs to play 3 quarters. I'm down for that. Can we just like have a rule change this year? Only 3 quarters. But the problem is it's not always the fourth quarter that's the bad quarter for us. And it used to be back in a couple of seasons ago, the third quarter was, you know, the bad quarter for us. All in all, you know, we can find different ways to make peace with it. Maybe that's one way if we can make a petition to have only 3 quarters gone. All right, folks, let's call it a stream. I appreciate you being here, hanging out with us. And again, I know you're frustrated. I am frustrated just as much as you. I screamed at my TV more than y'all will ever be able to see or know about, but openly talking about it here. And we'll certainly, obviously, continue to work through this season that has been very frustrating. It is not over. There are still plenty of games to be played. And I'm excited to continue to watch this team because whether it's about this season or the future, there's still plenty of things to look forward to with more Auburn football the rest of the season because they're not guaranteed, as we learned in that season oh so long ago, to even have football. All right. 17-21. Congrats to the Auburn, well, to the Missouri Tigers. Too many Tigers in the SEC. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us and being part of our little family within the Auburn family. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.